Thanks to those joining me live and to those joining me on archive. DStyleBoxing here. If you're watching on archive, leave a comment. Tell me what you think and thumbs up the video. So check it out. The reason I'm doing this video was not planned, but here I am. Okay, and this is a response, kind of a response. It's not really a direct response, but to anything particular. But just I'm basically gonna give my thoughts that I wanted to give. Right earlier, unfortunately, this Surface here started to do an update. Right in the middle of the whole thing. I was trying to get on, and on his Hangout, I couldn't get on. So it is what it is. So here I am. Okay, so let me give some thoughts here. All right, let me first, of course, explain what the hell I'm talking about. So, fighters of the past. You always hear people say things, right? Oh, these Robinson, he fought a bunch of cab drivers, like, New York City cab drivers, and they'll even give you the city that they worked in and everything, right? Oh, like, oh, he fought a dude with 14 losses, or whatever it is, right? And that's a big one, that they had a lot of losses. Back in the day, especially in Robinson's era, there was fighters that had a lot of losses. There was a lot of German fighters. There was a lot of active fighters. But you know what they were? What's the last word I just used? Active. They weren't fighting just once or twice a year. I mean, nowadays, a dude fights 3 times, and he gets praised. It's like, oh, my God. What? He fought 3 times. Like, wow, he fought 3 times in a year, and then they'll fight 1 time the next year. I mean, it's insane, right? A dude fights 3 times. I mean, they get praised to the moon nowadays, And look, by the way, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. I think 3 times a day is fine, right? But, since you guys like to point out numbers, right? Because they always bring up numbers. Like, honestly, a lot of these dudes that always talk about the numbers, oh, the numbers don't lie, like all this shit, right? Every single time. Why is it that the people that bring up numbers, can somebody explain to DStyle, why is it that the people that bring up numbers all the time, I just get this feeling like they're not good at math. Like, I just get this feeling like, yeah, that dude ain't good at math. Because the way he talks about the numbers. Oh, the numbers! So, I don't know if you guys know this, but in every fight you take, right, there's a percentage chance you can lose. In every fight, no matter what fight it is. Upsets happen, unlikely things happen, and likely things happen more often than not. But unlikely scenarios are going to happen more often, okay, the more fights you have. That's just common sense. That's just like one example about numbers, okay? Just the way percentages work. So there's a 1% chance you can lose. That's a very low percentage, right? If there's a 1% chance you can lose, are you more likely to have losses on your record if you fight over 100 times, or if you just fight 40 times? It doesn't take a genius to figure that one out, right? And if you need some pen and paper, go ahead, do what you got to do. Maybe a pencil so you can erase. That's just one aspect. Another aspect, which people don't understand, the culture of boxing was just completely different back in those days. It was just completely different, right? The development of a fighter, for one, which still happens today in third world countries for the most part, where fighters turn pro at a very early age, and while they're molding themselves, they're going to take some losses, right? But that happened a lot. Okay, we didn't have the amateur system they have today. A lot of your undefeated fighters, they took L's as amateurs. Okay, they got embarrassed by some better amateurs, when they weren't quite ready, but they were being molded as a fighter. Kind of like the, like the bronze medalist, you guys like to say, never lost. Okay, you don't think he lost in the amateurs? It's like, well, he was being molded as a fighter, so there's that aspect. All right. Another aspect is every time I turn around, every time D-Style turns around, right? D-Style turns around, and the fight's getting, postponed. I turn around, a fucking fight gets postponed. Like I'm D-Style scared to turn around. I mean, I turn around, oh, the fight's postponed. Like, what happened? Oh, he injured this, he injured that. Now, some of look, obviously, it's not a knock as in terms of, medicine is better today, and we have great technology today, and all that. I get that, but let me make this very clear. Some of the injuries that cause fights to get postponed, there's no way. Okay, you had one choice. Okay, back in Robinson's day, pull out of the fight, and you don't get paid. Somebody else will get the payday. The guys fought hurt all the time. So somebody injured had any type of fracture or some type of shoulder injury that they were dealing with, right? And they didn't have the type of state of the art. I'm hearing like freaking Keith Thurman fans talking about how this dude might need 4 or 5 tune-ups. He needs a couple tune-ups to see if he's 100%. Like, what is this? Like, what? That wasn't like a luxury that these fighters had back in the day. So if a fighter, if they were having like some type of injury issue, right, as active as they were, they kept fighting through it, and they would end up with losing streaks at times. That would happen. Now it didn't show you what they were completely capable of, obviously, right? Also, the field was stacked, right? The field, it was stacked. It was hard to be undefeated, right? When you literally had, like, for real, a murderous row in that division. Now, not the murderous rows you hear about today. Like, oh, it's a murderous row. It's a murderous row. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to talk about the white murderous row, right? That's not the video for this. But it's hard to come out undefeated, right? Unscathed when you fought everybody, when everybody's fighting everybody, right? Now, when I say that, I know somebody's going to come out and they're going to say, well, not everybody fought everybody, like everybody. I mean, Robinson didn't fight so-and-so. He didn't fight so-and-so here. He ducked so-and-so. Like, bringing up stuff that, like, everybody knows. Like, right, okay? I understand that I'm painting with a broad brush here, but it's to make a very specific point. We're not going to compare, right? Right? Like, people bring up the fact that Robinson lost to LaMotta, but they won't bring up the other times that Robinson beat him multiple times. I think he proved that he was a better fighter, right? I think he proved that. Okay, like, I think that was made pretty clear. Right? There's other guys that beat him. Oh, he lost to so-and-so. He lost to Carmen Basilio. Like, yeah, he lost to Carmen Basilio. What's your point? Like, when you're fighting, when your fighters are fighting as often as he was fighting, now I'm not saying he never postponed the fight, right? It just wasn't a wide known problem as it is today, right? But when you're fighting as often as a Ray Robinson fights, you're gonna lose. A loss is gonna happen, right? Yes, Robinson did have stroke. He was a champion and all that. But let's not play pretend and act like he was cherry picking the way fighters today are protected. Okay, these fighters don't even have to cherry pick themselves. They get protected, right? I mean, fighters today, I mean, they go out of their way to protect these fighters, to protect that zero, because what you lose is the blueprint, right? Everyone wants to talk about blueprints. You know, when guys talk like this and they say things like, well, you know, fighters of yesteryear can't compare to the athlete fighters of today. Why not? What reason? What are you telling me exactly? You know, it is honestly, it is absolutely lazy thinking, right? To just say, by definition, everything gets better over time, right? Everything evolves, everything gets better. That is a lazy form of thinking. First of all, it's not even the way evolution works. Evolution isn't about getting better over time. That's not what evolution is, right? That's not what evolution is. Evolution just means change. It could be change for the better. It could be change for the worse, right? If dinosaurs evolved to like the birds you see today, did they become more ferocious? Well, no. Okay, so before you start using words like evolution, right? Maybe you should know what the fucking word means, right? So this idea that it gets better by definition. So we're just gonna say that boxing today is better than boxing back in the day, just because it's more current. Like, just by definition, we don't have to analyze. We don't have to watch it. We don't have to kind of just look at the facts. Because it's better. What does that even mean? Better at what? They're not more active. Okay, it's more safe today. You could say that. We know more about pugilistic dementia than we did then. All right, we know about head trauma. We know more about how concussions work, and so in terms of medicine, yes, we're better at that. There's evidence to support that, but it's not better in terms of activity. It's not better in terms of volume. I mean, look at these gyms today. They're fucking laughable. They're embarrassing. Half of them are actually MMA gyms. They just happen to let dudes like box there if they want. Okay, it's fucking insane. And then they have freaking aerobic instructed freaking boxing classes. All right, it's for soccer moms. In what way is boxing, like, you have to explain to me what that is? And everybody's like, if you were to tell me right now, if you want me to believe, all right, and this might piss off some people, and it's fine, right? But if you want me to believe that the bronze medalist that you say never lost, right? If you want me to believe that this bronze medalist anyway, okay. Like TBE, TBM, all right, the bronze medalist. But if you want me to believe that, if you're going to argue, oh, he's better than the fighters of those days, right? If you're going to make that argument, I kind of know where you're going with that. Your argument is that if he's allowed to wear his therapeutic gloves, and it's a big 20 by 20 ring, and it's only 12 rounds, and it's the exact boxing rules of today, right? Where he has all this knowledge that has been passed to him, okay, by those that have actually built the fucking sport. You're basically arguing that he would win in a one-on-one match, like both 100%, which is never that's not a realistic scenario, but they're both 100%, and we're going to do it under Floyd's rules. But that's basically what you're arguing. But, and if you want to believe that, fine, okay? We're never going to know. We're never going to put him in the ring, okay? We're never going to do a simulation. The fight's never going to happen, right? So, of course, you could say, yeah, in my opinion, he would win easy, okay? You could say whatever you want at that point. Nobody could prove you wrong, but you can't prove you're right either, right? What I can say is the following. I have some evidence, right? It's circumstantial evidence, but nonetheless, it is very reasonable. It's a reasonable assumption that Mayweather would not be able to handle it in Robinson's era. He wouldn't. All right? Because his hands are too brittle. Those special gloves that are just that they made just for him don't exist back in those days. And you could sit there, you could say, "Well, that's who cares?" And well, you could tell me this, like if you want to say he's TBE, then we're going to have this discussion, right? There's no who cares, okay? TBM, all right, got to put him on trial if he's going to make this case. And if you're going to mock a guy like Robinson because he has losses because of blueprints, and we're going to talk about the blueprint in a moment, right? Talking about guys that don't know what, like most of these dudes that just say blueprint, okay? You're expecting to believe that Floyd knows how to read a blueprint. Okay, I know he doesn't mean that literally, but it's still funny, okay? But if you look at, let me tell you something, all right? Before we get to the blueprint part. If he's TBE, then then we have to have these discussions, right? He would be fighting in an 18-by-18, with some exceptions here and there, but an 18-by-18, okay? And if he had an injury kind of similar to the one he had before he postponed the Marcus fight, more than likely that fight's going to happen with that injury. Yeah, you guys don't think about that, do you? There is no I'm going to postpone the fight because I have an injury. No. The sport keeps moving on. It doesn't stop just for you. It's a different, it is a different era, right? The culture of boxing is different. And if you break your hand, now granted, you're going to box more rounds, 15 for championship fights. And you're going to be active, continuously active. You could even argue, I mean, Mayweather was talking about how his body broke down after the Gotti fight. He only had 30-some fights and his body broke down. And think about it. A defensive wizard like Floyd and his body broke down. What do you think's going to happen if he had to fight twice a fucking month? What does common sense tell you? Survey says, well, what does it say? What does it say? Survey says, unlock your brain. What does it say? But look, in all seriousness, right? Now, again, you could flip the script and you could say, well, you don't know that. You don't know how he would do, blah, blah, blah. I do know this, okay? I do assume this, but I'm basing it off of what we have, what we know about Floyd, right? When you say he's TBE, you're talking in terms of, in this perfect scenario, you could take Mayweather at his best, 100%, and you take this other guy at 100% at his best. You put him in the ring, and he wins a decision, right? Or maybe knockout, whatever you have him winning, right? And it's all in Mayweather. I mean, we're not going to talk about what gloves they're going to wear. We're not going to talk about, what type of ring size they're going to fight in, how many rounds they're going to do. We're not going to address any of that. So we, it's those things have to be discussed. That's all I'm saying, right? Because when you say things like he's the best ever because he never lost, what's a lazy argument? That's what that is. Okay, he's TBE because there's no blueprint to beat him. The blueprints, the blueprint, blueprint. Let's talk about the blueprint, right? Blueprint, right? First of all, for anybody crying to me, if you come to me crying saying, no, but stop calling him the bronze medalist, even though he's a bronze medalist, all right? I mean, that's just the reality. You can't claim he never lost because bronze medalist by definition means you lost in the semifinal. right? That's what it means. You don't even have to win the bronze medal. I mean, it's just given to you once you lose in the semifinal, right? There's 2 bronze medalists, just for those that don't know, right? But anyway, there's no bronze medal match, folks, right? That doesn't happen, all right? But if you want to tell me TBM, the bronze medalist is the best ever, right? And by the way, it's not just in fairness. It's not. You got Manny Pacquiao fans that call him the best of all time as well, and with them it's easy because all I got to do is watch Marquez knock his ass out, and then I laugh about it, and I'm over it, right? But but anyway, like there we go. He's not getting up, Jim. He's not getting up, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, he's the best of all time. Okay, so here's my thing, all right? Blueprints. So if you want to cry to me that he never lost that match, and then if we're gonna go by, well, come on, but we know he won that fight. Well, in my opinion, he lost that first Castillo fight. So if we go by that logic, if we're gonna reward a win that he actually lost, then we got to be able to take away a win that he actually lost. Okay? Or I think I said the same thing, but you get what I'm saying, and vice versa, right? Okay, we're going to take away a loss that he actually won. Well, we got to be able to take away a win that he actually lost. There we go. It's always good to try it twice. You're getting there, D-Style. You're catching on, man. I catch on pretty quick. Okay, but anyway. What about, well, so what if they were cab drivers? Oh, but they're cab drivers. What does that mean? What? They were cab drivers. Well, you don't think any boxers today have like a part-time job on the side or what? Kali Pavlik had a job on the side. Well, what's with this thing? Like if a fighter does something on the side, he's labeled as that, right? So if a fighter's a mechanic, oh man, he fought a mechanic, bro. He fought a mechanic. Look, he fought a fighter that happens to be a mechanic. He didn't fight the dude that just fixed your car the other week. Okay? It's not like they just went to the Pet Boys, right? Not that I go there. That's just too expensive. But just so everybody understands what I'm saying. If you go to Pet Boys, which I hope you don't, it's crappy service. But anyway, if you go to Pet Boys, it's not like Bob Arum went to Pet Boys and, it's just like, yo, you want to fight somebody? All right, get in the ring. No, they said guys that were actively fighting. Right? It's like if I say, oh, Pacquiao, he beat a lawyer, bro. Like, really, he got in a ring with a lawyer. Well, he didn't just fight some. They didn't go to court, okay, and just randomly pick a lawyer and put him in the ring with Pacquiao. His name is Marco Antonio Barrera. Okay, like, oh, Pacquiao, he fought an accountant. Well, why the fuck is he fighting an accountant? Why am I having a hard time saying accountant? I don't know. But anyway, I said accountant. Right, talk about the Texas coming out of me, okay? But anyway, okay, he fought an accountant, right? But his name is Marquez, bro. Like, yes, fighters can do fighters don't literally live in a gym. Like, they don't have like a bed in the side, and they just wake up and all they do all day every day is boxing, nothing else. I mean, to be honest with you, all bullshit aside, like if Adrian Broner had a part-time job on the side, like if he had a part-time job on the side, he might even still be undefeated today. Because he would be busy doing his job on the side, right? Rather than, getting drunk and partying too much. Okay? I mean, he would be staying more busy doing that. So let's not, like, when people look at that like it's a bad thing, like, oh, this guy, he had a part-time job, bro. Bro, he used to work construction. No, man, he's fighting construction work. What doesn't mean that the guy, like, they just went to the construction site and just picked up a random dude, right? It's a guy that's an active fighter that does that on the side. That's it. Okay, it's like their side chick, Right? That's what it is. Right? Anyway, I don't know, man. DStyle doesn't know anymore, you know? DStyle doesn't know anymore. I don't know. I don't know what to say to people anymore. I just don't know. You know, if you're watching right now, thumbs up the video. We're almost going to wrap this up. What's up, Red Fox? Red Fox, remember a video you did when Oct made a vid about Robinson losing to Tiger Jones? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I don't know what CT is. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, he lost to Tiger Jones. Tiger Jones. He lost to Tiger Jones. Blah, 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 blah. Like, holy shit. You know? Yeah, I remember that video. Oh yeah, Tiger Jones had the blueprint. The blueprint. Like, man, there's a quote unquote blueprint to beat anybody. Everybody's beatable. Now, just because somebody retired undefeated doesn't mean that they were unbeatable, right? Number one, you can't say you're unbeatable if you're a bronze medalist. That's number one. Okay, number two. Number two, okay? You can't say you're unbeatable if it's a subjective sport where three old farts judge fights, and most of your fights go with decision. Now, I agree with just about all the decisions that he should have won. Okay, it worked reverse in the Canelo fight. It should have been unanimous. I don't know what CJ Ross was watching. Okay, that's my opinion. I think Floyd clearly won that fight, but I thought he lost a Castillo fight. So don't give me this crap. You know, like I'll call him a gold medalist if you admit he lost a Castillo fight. How about that? I think that's a fair trade-off, right? And please spare me. Spare me but in the rematch, he proved that, no, in the rematch, you know, he defeated Jose Luis Castillo unanimously in the rematch. That's what happened. It doesn't suddenly make the first fight go away. Okay? Because because when I bring that up, the Castillo fight, it's always, even the first Maidana fight, that fight was very close. That fight, I had to fight a draw. And that makes a lot of Mayweather fans mad because he had a draw with Maidana, in my opinion, right? But all the Floyd fans, they all gave me different rounds that he lost. Like they couldn't agree on what rounds Floyd won. Yet they want to cut to me and say a draw is ridiculous, right? There was no consensus among Mayweather fans, okay, or people that had Mayweather winning in general on what rounds Mayweather won. There was no consensus, right? But let's put that aside. He did struggle with Maidana, the best ever. Okay, let that sink in for a moment, right? But they always bring up the fact that he did better in the rematch. Oh, in the rematch, he showed though, you know, that whether it was because he wasn't focused or, you know, oh, he wasn't himself in the first fight, or they buy the bullshit that, like, you know, he knows he lost that Castillo fight because he couldn't stop talking about the shoulder, you know, hurting and shit, right? But my shoulder hurt. Like, okay, right. But you can't in any way, shape, like, look, all bullshit aside. Okay, I know there's a lot of joking involved or whatever, but at the end of the day, you know that you can't argue there's no blueprint to beat him when I've seen him get beat. And you can say, oh, well, he made it right the second time. He beat him decisively in the second fight, right? Well, it doesn't. So what? I mean, Robinson made it right. Look, how many times did he beat Lamada? Right? After, like, they can't stop talking about the losses of Robinson. He lost to Lamada, and then he beat Lamada. Who knows how many fucking times? Right? I forget the number. Was it 6 or? But he beat him a shitload of time. And then they're like, oh, but he still lost though. So for Mayweather, when he arguably lost or arguably had a draw, okay, in those two fight scenarios that I gave you, it's always the one time he made it, quote unquote, right in the rematch. But Robinson can make it right multiple times, and, you know, that's whatever. He still lost though. Okay. A side piece job. That's right, Mr. Doc. Almost every contender for the title has a regular day job. Yes, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make them less of a fighter. Okay. It's first of all, for those that don't understand this, okay, overtraining for a fight is problematic, right? So it's not like they could train nonstop, for 24 hours and just do that and that's it. So they need time out of boxing anyway, right? Mentally and physically, their bodies, it needs to be away from boxing for a certain period of time, right? There's only so much training they can do to maximize their potential. It's a good balance, and it's up to them and the trainer and nutritionist or whatnot to get that right. Okay, but it's okay to have a day job. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't make him less of a fighter because he's working a part time or from a 9 to 5 or whatever. If anything, that shows you how fucking hungry they are, right? I mean, literally, number one, probably fucking hungry after training, but but I'm hungry right now, But anyway, now I'm thinking about food and shit. But look, all bullshit aside, like Dan Raphael, he's hungry, right? Like he goes after that buffet. Um, but wow, Dan Raphael, I just threw a shot at Dan Raphael for no reason. It's random. Yeah. But it shows you how hungry they are. Okay, all bullshit aside. I mean, their dedication to the sport, and it keeps them locked in on what they need to do, right? I mean, time a dude gets up, right? Let's say he has to go to his job at 9, for example. He's probably going to get up at 5 in the morning to start doing road work, okay? And no, I don't mean, he's doing construction, so he does road work. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay, if you don't know what I'm saying, like when I say he'll get up early to start doing road work, if I say that and you don't know what I mean, you need to go look that up. Okay, I'm being serious because I don't think a lot of young boxing fans, know what that is. So find out what that is. Okay, but he has to go do road work, and then probably goes to his job after that. Eats breakfast, goes to his job, gets out of his job, and then he goes to the boxing gym. And that's his life, and it keeps him focused. It keeps him out of trouble. Okay, what would you rather these fighters be doing? Okay, go into the club and making it rain or what? Okay, getting alcohol in their system, spending their money away. Okay, would you rather have a side job or 7 side chicks, right? Sucking shit away from you, and then you're gonna end up with fucking child support, and with 4 baby mamas and who knows what else, right? So yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a side job. I think that helps contenders, especially early on. Now, don't get me wrong. Once they start getting the $1 million paydays or even the 400,000 to 300,000 paydays, I mean they're not gonna work for $12 an hour anymore. Like that's done. But what I'm trying to say is having a side job does not hurt a fighter whatsoever, right? It doesn't hurt them whatsoever at all, right? In many cases, these jobs can even benefit them. You think it's an accident that Joe Smith is such a hard puncher with the type of job that he does? I do believe that it did contribute somewhat to his punching power and his rugged style, okay? But anyway, so what are the comments I see on here? Red Fox, Gotti might have been more recognized in the 30s and 40s. I don't know, man. I think Gotti would have gotten fucking destroyed in that era. Champ Ross, don't hate on guys who's mowing lawns on the weekend. Red Fox asked if I think that's true. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I think the logic is that more time you can spend on your craft, the better. I mean, I'm not going to say that's not true. Of course that's true, right? But you can overtrain like that. I'm talking about physically overtrain, right? Like there's only so much training you can do. The key is to maximize that training. Maximize as much as possible. But yeah, I do believe that's true. I've interviewed fighters that told me that's true. So, you know, it's probably different with every fighter, obviously. Let's see. Yeah, Dan's already eating that Super Bowl food, Champ Ross. I agree. Red Fox, full-time boxer could focus more and dedicate more time to be in shape. Well, how much, like, when you say that, right? When you say, and I think that I think I kind of touched on that. It's not that having a side job is going to make him a better boxer. That's not what I'm arguing. There could be some contributing factors, but very minimal. But what it's going to do, right, is keep them out of the type of trouble, okay, that we've seen fighters that don't have a side job get in, right? It's going to keep them, away from a lot of crap. Because having a job, I mean, it's you go in there, you have to do your job, and if you don't do it, you're going to get fired. I mean, that's just the way a job works. So there's focus there, and there's discipline there, and you're going to do your job. For at least whether it's 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, and whether it's a couple days a week or 5 days a week, you're away from that, okay? And I just think it can work for certain fighters, definitely. It's far better than going out for hours at a time and making it rain at the club and getting tequila in your system and whiskey in your system and all that, and then you got to piss that shit out and go train the next day. I mean, look at Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr. never had the blue collar mentality, ever. Chavez Jr. never understood. And a lot of people that, a lot of us have had jobs, right? I've had jobs where I had to get up at 5 in the fucking morning, and it was annoying. I'm not a morning person. I hated getting up. I was groggy and even for a second, but I would even think like, I should just quit. Just go back to sleep. But I would make myself get up, So you learn discipline and you learn about hard work. And Chavez Jr. never learned any of that. Chavez Jr. never understood that. But I think there's something to say about going to work, working your ass off, and after 2 weeks, you get a fucking $700 check. And like, fuck, all that for this? And then you'll learn to appreciate, okay, how difficult it is to make money that way, right? So when you do start making the big bucks as a boxer, okay, you'll value that money more, right? I honestly believe that. That's why a lot of kids that inherit money, okay, they don't understand that. Okay, like they have no understanding or concept of that. And now I know I'm diving into this other shit now, right? But so all I'm saying is that at the end of the day, when people point out that such and such boxer has this part-time job or he's a taxi cab driver or whatever it is that they're pointing out, it doesn't make him less of a fighter. Because that's the basis of my argument, right? That's it. It doesn't make him less of a fighter. It doesn't mean anything. It just means it's something they were doing on the side because they needed that money. That's it. Let me see here. I missed a lot of comments. Mr. Doc, Red Fox, one of the reasons Stewart said one of the reasons James Toney didn't get the most out of himself every fight was that he was always in the gym. Red Fox says, but then how much rest is a working boxer getting to recover? Grape Drank. Joe Louis used to do a lot of labor work for training purposes like chopping lumber, carrying heavy objects upstairs, etc. Mr. Doc, he could fight his ass off for days, and as a result, but how many peak performances did James Toney have? Red Fox, Mr. Doc, overtraining is possible. Mr. Doc, exactly. He was basically in a constant state of overtrained. It could explain why he never got fucking tired, despite having a big ass belly too. Red Fox, Tecate, LOL. Where Rilo at? I'm gonna have some Tecates tonight, right? You believe that? Yeah. Chavez Jr. had a silver spoon. Yeah, he did. And I never finished my point, by the way, but I guess I did make the point. I'm kind of indirectly, but Chavez never learned that. He never learned, the value of hard work. Now, 78 will tell you that he's not even his son, right? But which is possible, I guess. I mean, he's kind of a tall dude compared to his dad and his mom, right? And if you look, it's not like the mom comes from a tall family, but she's just a short one. Or I don't know how Chavez got so big, but all bullshit aside, that's his genes, right? I mean, I think it does tell you a lot, when the son of a legendary boxer can't even come close to his father, right? But now there's other aspects, obviously, right? Just because your father's gifted doesn't mean you're going to be gifted as well. And I do believe that there's something to be said about being born with something, right? But if there's one aspect that was clearly missing in Chavez, was he never maximized his potential, ever. He never maximized it. He always came up short, in maximizing his potential. I mean, the best training camp he ever had was probably the Andy Lee fight, but he just didn't have that in him. I mean, his dad was fighting for peanuts and living in fucking trains. I mean, he was in Silver Spoon. So it's a different mentality, right? And the mental aspect of boxing is, it's a big part of boxing, right? It just is. I still get a kick out of him like moving the furniture and hitting the mitts in the living room, though. But and a guy holding the mitts from that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. I still get a kick out of that. Champ Ross, Bob, and yes, I agree about his story now. Chavez Jr. was a fucking bum. Okay, Champ Ross, Bob Biram should get more credit than he does for getting Chavez Jr. record up to 40-0 or whatever the F it was. That shit was hard to do with that clown. Functional strength builds punching power, not weightlifting, says Grape Drank. Well said, well said. Red Fox, Scotty may have been an all-time great if he was in the 30s, so we'd be talking a lot about him today. You really think that? I don't think that, but I hear you. Red Fox, I see lots of young boxers thinking bodybuilder means better boxer. Great Drake, yeah, I box, but I don't mess with weights. Man and water, I don't think coming from money makes a difference. Some people are just not born with it. In the UFC, for example, there's a lot of middle class champs. There is. But I mean, what's middle class? Like it's coming from a rich family and being middle class are two different things, right? And here's the thing. So you have a lot of people that will label themselves middle class, and they are technically, but it doesn't mean that they don't know struggle. It doesn't mean that, to a certain degree, but many of them, I mean, they were in amateur wrestling. So when it comes to amateur wrestling, the discipline is required. And if you can't be disciplined, you're not going to get through that, right? The fighters from Brazil, I mean, they come from poor areas, and also the UFC is a young sport. We're starting to see more and more, especially more and more minorities that don't come from that typical middle class background, slowly starting to take over that sport. You know, it's a slow thing, but it's starting to happen. Man in water. If Chavez Jr. grew up poor, he'd still be a bum. He probably would have, yeah. But would he have been moving furniture around and doing stuff like that? I don't know. Champ Ross. Hearn's kid Ronald was shit too. He tried though, just overmatched when he stepped up. Man in water. Mosley Jr. is the same height as Chavez Jr. and Chavez Sr. is the same height as Mosley. Fact of the day, guys. You know, guys, I got to wrap this up pretty quickly. Look at Magic Johnson's son. Just because your father is a great athlete doesn't mean your son will be one. They're just kids. Marvin's, Aaron Pryor Jr., Jorge Paez Jr., and all these juniors. Man in water, there's no such thing as functional strength. Well, okay, Mr. Doc, I was a fan of George Paez Sr. That 15-rounder with Calvin Grove is a classic. All right, there you go. Throwback fight of the day, guys. Go check out that fight. All right. Champ Ross. The fighters have to have a second job usually when they first start out. Making 1,000 or 1,200 fighting in the club shows don't cut it unless they get big signing bonus or get pushed from these promoters. Gorguruga, did Chavez Senior Jr. wear that pink underwear just to spite his dad on cam during that 24/7? Senior looked embarrassed, stunned, and heartbroken. I think he was just trying to give his son some tips, and his son shut him down. But yeah, I don't know why he was wearing that. And Senior was the one doing the film study for Chavez. Yeah, he was like breaking down. He might have told, like, in that moment, he might have told, Junior an opening that would have worked for him, but he didn't want to listen. So, all right, I haven't seen evidence that such thing exists. Functional strength. So for example, I mean, look, I'm not going to get into what's it called, semantics or anything, but I will say this, okay? So, punching power, for example, just because somebody can knock you the fuck out, it doesn't mean that, it works better if I say it with two people, okay? If one person knocks you the fuck out with a punch and the other one does not, it doesn't mean that one guy can lift more just because he was able to knock you out, And I'll also say that I'll never forget this. This is a personal experience. In my family, there's a lot of construction workers, okay? And one of my cousins went to work with one of my uncles, right? He was like a bodybuilder type guy, okay? Lifted weights a lot. And but for whatever reason, he had basically, I don't know if it's muscle memory, I don't know what it is, but he had a hard time with like certain things. Like, for example, one of my uncles was a framer, right? And they would use these clips that you would have to like grip, and you have to, I forgot the name of what they're called, but I know a lot of these terms in Spanish. So, but you cut through the stud, and some of these studs are like thick, right? And most people, especially if you're young or whatever, you could probably do it one time. You know what I mean? But when you have to cut multiple times, he was having a hard time doing it. My uncle was like, no big deal, like pa 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 pa, like the muscles in like specific muscles in his hands were just used to it, And my cousin, who was freaking bench pressing who knows how much, and he had his big fucking biceps and triceps and this and that, like he was struggling. Okay. So that's just something I can't break down to you why that is. I do know they clowned him a little bit because look at you, lift all these weights, so you can't even cut a fucking stud, right? After the fourth one, he's like his hand was shaking, he couldn't do it. I don't know. So I don't know what that's gonna tell you guys, but there's definitely different forms of strength and muscle tolerance within strength, and what certain people could do or not do. Okay, like I think that there is truth to that. Anyway, that's it. This is DStyle, and I'm out. Have a good Sunday, guys.